What's happening, guys? Jim the Game Guru. Today let's get into London. London, a game where players develop and run part of London. And what they do is they buy buildings. They could either be on the north side or the south side of the river running through London. And they can also play down certain other city cards. The game absolutely looks exquisite. The artwork is fantastic. Even though the components are kind of average as far as construction quality, I feel like the artwork is absolutely fantastic. Mechanics, very good, but also very quirky. It's a type of game that if you were to put it down for about a month or two, guess what? You're gonna forget the mechanics because there's certain things that are not relatable to a lot of the other games that you have already played in your collection. So let's go ahead and dig in here and take a look at the components, do a simple how to play. If you're new here, please consider subscribing or following. All right, let's take a look at the components that we have on the table for London. So right here in this strip, we have a marketplace of boroughs that you can end up purchasing for your city. Up here we have the development board, and these spaces right here are going to have discarded cards from players as they are putting city cards down into their playing area for their portion of the city. Right here I have poverty tokens, and these poverty tokens do not normally go here. They'll usually go off to the side. The reason why I have these poverty tokens here is for two reasons. One, because I have a black top to my table here, which makes these tokens really hard to see in the video. And the other reason is because I've got this set up for 2 players. So in 2-player games, you only use this part of the development board. So I have these tokens here as a reminder that I cannot go beyond that point when I'm recording this video. You have 3 different types of poverty tokens. You have these ones here that are single tokens. You have these ones here that are 5, and then you have this one here that represents 15 poverty's worth in 1 token. So basically, as you acquire poverty in this game, you just grab the next one up if you're running out of these particular tokens. Up at the very top of the development board, you have a prestige tracker where these are basically like victory points. The prestige tracker goes from 0 to 49. If you go beyond 49, you just put your marker back to the very beginning, and remember that you have 49 already to add 49 to whatever ongoing prestige you may acquire. On the left side over here, we have prestige lost due to poverty. Now what that means is as you start gaining poverty, this is a legend that will tell you how much prestige you lose as you gain poverty. On the left-hand side over here, we have loan tokens. In this game, you can get 10 money as a loan anytime you need it, either to pay an activation cost or to pay some other kind of ability or something. If you need money in this game, you can actually go for loans. Now, the bad thing about loans is that you acquire more poverty when you have more loans. Over here, we have the city deck, and these are cards that you're going to have in your hand. So each player gets dealt 6 cards in their hand. And over here we have the money pile. So I'll show you the money pile here, what it looks like. Now I don't know what the money is in this game, whether it's pounds or whatever, euros or whatever it is. So I'm not sure what that symbol is on the money, but in this video, I'm just gonna call it money. I'm going to say 10 money, 2 money, 5 money, whatever it is, because I don't know the exact currency type they're using in this game. I'm guessing it's pounds, but I'm not absolutely 100% certain. Let's go into each of the cards and talk about the anatomy of the cards. So I'm going to start off with the boroughs. And then, like I said in my intro, very exquisite art. Very, very exquisite art. So the anatomy of the card is this. The name of the actual borough on the very top. And over here you have whether or not it's on the north or south side of the river, and if it's riverside. So if it's riverside, it's got like this bluish. If it's not, like this one here is not riverside, it'll just say it's on the north side but not along the river. Over here, you have the cost. This one costs 7 money in order to purchase, and it will allow you these immediate effects, which is gain 2 cards, draw 2 cards, you get 5 prestige points immediately, and then you reduce your poverty by 2. Now, the victory points in this game is prestige points. That's one thing you need to remember. Prestige points is your victory points. So let's just flip through here, and as you can see, just kind of take a look at some of the art. Very exquisite art. Some of these boroughs will actually have additional abilities down here. So this one says, whenever you discard a card, pay 1 money to treat that card as another color. So that's kind of cool. And we'll get into cards and playing cards and what you need to do as far as that. This one right here, at the start of your turn, instead of drawing, look at the top 3 cards of the city deck. Keep one and return the others. So all these special land will actually have, can have special abilities or give you different immediate bonuses when you purchase them. There are only 20 in this game. And I don't know if there's actually a restriction on how much land you can buy per turn. I don't think there is. Let me know in the comments if there's a restriction to that. I have never seen anything about that. So let's go into some of the city card. Okay, so on the city cards, let me find one that's really, really juicy. Again, great art. But I'm going to find one that is got a bunch of stuff on it so I can kind of go over the anatomies here. So let's take a look at the anatomy of the city card. So up here at the very top, we have the title. On the left side, we have an additional cost. So whenever you put this on your side and you play it as one of your developed parts of your city, you have to pay 4 money in order to bring this out. On the bottom right, you'll have the action that needs to occur whenever you activate this card in your city. And then this particular one gives you 12 money whenever you run your city. And on the left side, if you have anything over here on the left side, you have an activation cost. Now, what's the difference between the 2 different costs? The cost up here is the cost you need to pay whenever you drop a card down into your play area. The cost over here, the bottom left, is whenever you run your city and you activate this card. That's what you need to do. In this particular case, it says you need to discard one of the cards from your hand. So again, beautiful artwork in this, just like the other ones. And then everything inside of here is going to be the ability you get whenever you run your city. Absolutely love how exquisite the art is. I know I've said it already a few times, but I think it's just absolutely fantastic. The cards themselves feel really good. They're thick. They're actually thick kind of cards, and I like that. I love having thick cards. Let's take a look at the manual really fast. The manual, well done. I mean, magazine quality paper. I love how it's laid out. It's very easy to read, and it looks beautiful. I mean, it really does. It's not as good as like the Wingspan manual. I think the Wingspan manual feels better as far as the texture of the paper, but very nice manual. One thing though that I don't like about this manual is that it doesn't have like an FAQ section on the back. A lot of manuals will have that as far as certain abilities and kind of clarifying certain abilities. There's nothing like that in this game. So that's one thing I don't like about this manual. There's going to be times where you're going to have to Google. You're going to have to Google abilities to see what the hell does that ability mean? And the other thing I don't like is that there's no reference card for each player in this game in order to remember what exactly happens when you're running your city as far as how you get your poverty. So let's go ahead, dig in to see how this game is played with these 2 players. I already have their 2 markers right up here on 0. They're 2 little meeple markers on 0 up there. Every player gets 6 cards, and every player gets 5 money right here. Now let's take a look at our hand here for player 1. The one thing that is very kind of quirky in this game as far as the mechanics, and like I said earlier in the intro, is that it's got certain mechanics that you'll probably forget. Is in most board games, whenever you play a card, take the card and you'll play it. And you might have a certain condition on the card that will restrict you from playing that card, or maybe certain condition you need to meet in order to play it. Or you might have a certain cost that you need to pay in order to play the card. But in this game, there are additional costs for certain cards to play, but you also have to discard another card out of your hand if it's the same exact color before you can play that card if it's not an action card. This card, for example, Huguenots right here, is an action card. It says action, colon, and then the actual action, and it says remove the card from the game after you play it. But a card like this, Grocers, is not an action card. So in order for me to play Grocers down on my side in my city, I have to actually remove another card from my hand, discard another card from my hand that is the same exact color. And then when I do that, it's gonna come up here into the development board where other people can actually grab that card if they want to. During your turn, you have to choose one of 4 actions. 4 actions are develop your city, run your city, draw 3 cards, or buy land. If you buy land, you're buying one of these boroughs. And the very first thing that you do on every single one of your turns is you draw another card from the city deck. Okay, so let's kick this off. Let's fire off this 2-player simulation. So this player over here, this player is going to be yellow and this player is going to be red. This player over here is going to draw a card to start off their turn. Now the hand limit in this game is 9. You cannot go beyond 9 cards. If you have more than 9 cards at the end of your turn, you have to discard the cards to the development board. Okay, so I got fishmongers, what I got? Huguenots, Grocers, coffee house. Okay, so let's go ahead. The first thing I'm going to do with player 1 here is I'm going to play the Huguenots and remove this out of the game. This says draw 2 cards, then remove this card from the game. So I'm going to go ahead and play it. It gets removed out of the game. I'm going to draw 2 cards. So give me Waterworks and Hospital. Now you can see, because all my cards were like this cream color, but now I've got a blue, 2 blue cards, right? So Hospital is whenever you flip another card in your display, you may flip this card instead. Wow. This player has decided to go into develop your city because I played this action card already. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and play Coffee House. Now the nice thing about Coffee House is I can put this down in front of me. Coffee House has an ability in the very top right up here which says do not expend a card to place. Now what does that mean? That means I don't have to get rid of a card out of my hand and put it in the discard pile up on the board. Which is pretty nice. It also has another ability at the bottom that allows me to pull a card from the discard pile on the development board and add it to my city whenever I run my city. So that's one thing I'm going to do. So what else I'm going to do? I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to try to play Leather Industry as well. And the reason why I'm going to do Leather Industry is because if I put down Leather Industry, my portion of the city, and run my city later on, I can gain 7 money plus gain 1 poverty. But 7 money sounds very delicious. But in order for me to play this, guess what? I have to get rid of another card in my hand. So I'm going to get rid of Grocers, which is the same color card. You have to remember, when you play a non-action card down as you're developing your city, you have to get rid of a card that's of the same color. If you cannot play that card down into your display area. So I also have another Leather Industry, and I'm going to go ahead and play that as well. But I need to get rid of another card that's the same. So I'm going to get rid of Fishmongers right there. So that goes up there. Whenever you're discarding to the development board, you start off in the top row. And then anything you discard beyond that goes to the second row down here. So now Leather Industry can come down here. Now this is all in my display, as you can see. You cannot put a card down in your display over top another card that has been played in the same turn. Later on your next turn, if you end up going to develop your city phase again, then you can actually put a card on top of another card in your display if you want to. So we have a Hospital here. Hospital has an additional cost of 2 money if I decide that I want to put that in my display. I might do that. And one other thing I want to go over too is down here on the bottom where it says the activation action after you activate a card. There's also a little value at the very top, which is your prestige points. This one gives you 3 and this gives you 1. These prestige points are counted at the end of the game towards your overall prestige total. I want to go ahead and play I'm going to put down my Hospital. So I'm going to go ahead and put Waterworks up here and I'm going to put Hospital down here in my display. Okay, I'm kind of running out of room here. I'm going to try to put them all together. So now I have created 4 different piles. Now this one right here I can't play, which is almshouses, because I don't have add any other card of the same color in order to discard. So I can't play it. So this stays in my hand. So this player is now done. Actually, you know what? I got to pay 2 money too, because hospital had an additional cost of 2 money. So I need to pay the 2 money up here into the supply. So now we're going to go over here to this player. Now this player has not very many good cards. 2 of his cards are poppers here. I'm guessing this is called poppers. I don't know if it's poppers or whatever, but these cards are cards that are kind of like dead cards in your hand. You cannot get rid of them unless you use a card that says discard a card from your hand, or you have more than 9 cards in your hand, and then therefore the overflow, you can then discard them to the development board after that. So what is this player going to do? First thing they got to do is they got to draw a card, right? That's the first thing they have to do on their turn. They have stock of change, which takes 2 money from each player. Wow. So 2 money from each player. That's when I activate this. I can only activate it when I run my city. You got 4 actions, like I said before. I can either go ahead and develop my part of the city here, buy land, draw 3 cards, or run my portion of my city. Well, I don't have anything here to run, so I'm not going to run the city. So I don't know if I want to develop, because I'm looking over here at player 1, and I see that they're going to get a crap ton of money, and they might start slurping up some of this land here. So this player right here is probably going to go ahead and go into the buying land action instead of building, and they're going to spend their 5 money that they started off with, dump that all, whoa, and then there goes the money right off the table. They're going to dump it into the supply. They're going to buy this Southwark and Bermondsey borough. So they're going to put it right here. The next borough end up flipping over just like that. Now they get the immediate effect from this, which is draw 4 cards, gain 1 immediate prestige, and get rid of 2 poverty. Well, they don't have poverty, so there's nothing to get rid of there. So they do gain 1 prestige immediately. So they go up 1 on the tracker, and then they get to draw 4 cards. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so we're going to draw 4 cards. Let's see how many cards we got now in our hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Well, look at that. So they're going to go ahead and get rid of their poppers at the end of the turn and go down to 9 cards. And that worked out beautifully for them. Okay, so that person is done. Let's go back over here to player 1. They're going to go ahead and draw a card. That's the first thing they need to do, right? So they drew Waterworks, and this actually minuses their poverty by 2 if they end up activating it into their city. Now, what are they going to do for their turn as far as what they want, as far as their action? I think we got so many cards here in our portion of the city. They're going to run the city. That's what they're going to do. So these 2 cards right here will give them 7 money and 1 poverty each card. So leather industry, 7 money, gain 1 poverty, and then flip over the card after it's done. And one of the reasons why you have a lot of cards that have these flipping over mechanics after you activate it is because if it didn't have that, they would be too OP'd. I mean, imagine being able to gain 7 money every single time you run your city because you have this building available. That's just nuts. All right, so let's go ahead, run our city. So this is going to go ahead and give us 7 money, right? So I'm going to they're both going to give us 7 money. So I'm going to go ahead and gain 14 money right from the supply over here, 14 money. And then they also give us a poverty each. So they'll gain 2 poverty from that. So we'll put the poverty right over here. I know it's hard to see. You won't be able to see it over here, but this player gained 2 poverty. Now, a leather industry flips over after activating it. And then over here, this hospital says, when you flip another card in your display, you may flip this card instead. You know what? I'm going to do that. So I'm going to flip this, but the hospital says I can flip this instead. So therefore, that leather industry does not get flipped over. I can use that again on a separate turn when I choose to run my city. So here, the coffee house says, place any card in the development board on top of this card, paying its additional cost. You may activate it this turn. Wow. So that is really nice. So I'm going to go ahead and I am going to take fishmongers right here. If I don't want to activate this, I don't have to. I don't have to use this if I don't want to. But you know what? This is a very simulated play. So I'm going to do it anyway, just for fun. So I'm going to pull this down over here. Then I'm going to go ahead and get the 5 money from it, just like that. This person's got a ton of money right now. But the active ability says, as soon as you activate it, you got to flip it over. So we're going to flip it over just like that. So now you can see 4 stack, only 1 that's not flipped over. And then after you run your city, you immediately gain poverty. And you gain poverty for each one of your stacks. So I have 4 stacks. So this player gains 4. So there is a negative effect about going balls to the wall and just getting just like this player has, because you're going to start gaining poverty like crazy. And then you gain another poverty for any loans you may have. Now, loans you can take any time during the game if you need to pay for something. And then you get poverty for the number of cards that you have in your hand. This player has 2, so they gain 2 more. So this player right now, player 1, has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 poverty. 8 poverty. Let's look at the legend. What does 8 poverty do at the end of the game if you still have 8 poverty? It gives you minus 11 prestige. So remember, at the end of the game, the poverty will end up killing you if you have too much of it. Okay, so that was that player's turn. Now let's go over here to player 2. Now they have land here that says once per turn, exchange a card in your hand with a card from the development board. Do I want to do that? No, I don't want to. I need some money. I need a lot of money. So being a 2-player game, I don't think I'm going to keep the stock exchange because it's going to allow me to steal money from this other player. But then if I do that, it's just only 1 other player. It's not like I'm playing with 3 or 4 where I can actually capitalize by gaining additional money from other players. And one thing I need to do before I start my turn here is I need to draw a card from the top. Yeah, so there's a lot of cards. So I think I'm going to get rid of the stock exchange. And I'm going to go into develop my city. So I'm going to get rid of the stock exchange. I'm going to put it up there. Now that allows me to play another card. I'm going to play Salters, I believe, right there. I really want to play this East India Company because it gives me 12 money. But I'm not going to do it right now because I need to get money first. Now, I could take a loan in order to pay for that additional cost because that additional cost of 4 right there. But instead of that, I think I'm just going to try to find a different card to play. And what I'll probably do is I'll probably play the Covenant Garden right there. And I want to put that down and get rid of the Bank of England. So I'm going to get rid of the Bank of England. That goes to the next spot. Now, if you notice, these 2 rows are all filled up. You ask yourself, what happens if I try to discard another card from playing another city card? There's no place to put that card I'm going to discard. Well, what happens is this bottom row, these cards are removed from the game, and these cards on the top, they slide down. So over time, as you're playing this game, what happens is these cards in the central development board will end up going down and eventually off the board and gone. So you need to remember that when you play the game, that they're not going to be there forever. They're actually going to disappear eventually. So I'm going to do Woolwich Arsenal. I'm going to play this one down right here because this gives me 5 victory points. But in order to put that in my city, I have to get rid of another card the same color. These cards right here are history. They're out of the game. These cards go down to the very bottom there, and this gets placed up there in that row, just like that. I got 1 blue card that I could play in my city here. Let's see. I could play this one, which is an action. Ren, put any 2 cards from your hand in your building display, then remove this card from the game. You must still pay their additional cost. The only problem is I don't have money for the additional costs on those. So I think I'm just going to go ahead and do the Vauxhall Gardens. I'm going to put this down. This will allow me to get money and victory points and reduce poverty later on. So I'm going to put that right over here, just like that. And I need to get rid of a blue card, right? So as much as it pains me, I'm going to have to get rid of St. Paul's. I mean, I could get rid of Ren, too. Yeah, you know what? Might as well just get rid of that. So I have these 2 cards left, and that's it. And I am done developing my city here. I didn't want to use the ability out of my card, so let's go back to player 1 over here. They're going to draw a card. They get Mercers for 5 gold. Player 1, I think, is going to buy some land. Like I said earlier in the video, I don't think there's a limitation to buying land. I believe you can buy as many as you can. Let me know in the comments if that is incorrect. So I'm going to buy the city. This one has an ability when you take a loan, take 12 money rather than 10. Okay, so I'm going to put that right over here. Try to, hopefully everything is kind of still visible. Now that what cost me 8, right? So I'm going to go ahead and spend the 8, just like that. 3, 5. Now I get to draw 4 cards from that. 1, 2, 3, 4, just like that. So now I have 7 cards in my hand. I'm not in the developing my city phase, so I cannot play cards out of my hand. Right now, I'm just in the buying land phase. So I'm going to move up, 6 victory points for this. I'm all the way up to 6 because of the immediate victory points I gain from this land. And I get to reduce my poverty by 2. Because on here it says reduce your poverty by 2. So I get rid of 2 poverty just like that. Now, if I wanted to, I could buy another piece of land. It would cause... Actually, let me flip another borough. It would make me draw additional cards, and I would have to discard because I'm sure I'll be over 9, but I might choose to go ahead and do that. So I'm going to go ahead and spend 5 over here. I want to save some money here, but I'm going to spend 5, so I'll give it 10 and get 5 back. I'm going to buy Paddington right there. So Paddington will give me a draw 3 plus 2 immediate victory points and minus my poverty by 1. Now, if you notice, I'm going to overlap this. So whenever you buy land and you already have land in your portion of the city, you have to overlap it just like that. And the abilities of the bottom land are ignored. They can no longer be used. And the abilities on the top land are the one that would be active. But this particular borough does not have an ability. So we gain 2 more victory points. We're up to 8. We get to draw 3 more cards, just like this. So 3 cards. So now I have a lot of, and I'll get to reduce one of my poverty by 1 as well. So I have a lot of cards in my hand right now. Wow, I need to get rid of 2 cards. So what am I gonna do? Let's get rid of the Highgate Cemetery. We're going to put that right there. All right, so I do not need to discard 2. I actually only need to discard 1 because your hand limit is 9. So since I had 10, I didn't have to get rid of the other one because that leaves me at 9 now. So I have 5 and 4, and that's 9. So that I am done with my buying land action with this player. So now we're going over here to player 2. They're going to go ahead and draw. Okay, so we got Turner's, East India Company, and St. Paul's. I have no money. I have 0 money over here for this player. So what this player is going to do is their action is going to be run the city. Now, I do have this ability on this card that I can exchange a card out of my hand with one that's on the board. I don't think I want to do that right now. I'm just going to choose to go ahead and run the city. So what does this give me? This gives me 2 gold plus 2 prestige immediately. So they gain 2 prestige. They go up to 3. They gain 2 gold. Okay, what else do we get? And then this card flips just like that. We also gain 4 gold from this card. 4 gold. And then this card flips. Then over here, we gain 5 gold plus 2 prestige. So 2 prestige will take us to 5. They gain 5. I know I'm calling it gold. It's actually money. All right, then we have the Woolwich Arsenal. I definitely want to go ahead and activate this as well because this will give me 5 more prestige points immediately. So I need 7 money though because this actually requires additional 7 money to actually activate. So I'm going to go ahead and spend the 7 money just like that. Pop, pop. 7 money's right there. And then this one I had to flip over as well. So it turned out every single building that I had, every card I had over here that I had to activate had to be flipped over after I used it. And that was what, 5 additional? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Player 2 is actually ahead. Even though player 1 went through this massive spending in the early part, they're actually ahead now by prestige points on the board. Now we have to, at the very end, after we activate and run our city, we have to get poverty, right? So 1 for each stack, 1, 2, 3, 4. So we get 4 poverty plus whatever we have in our hand. So we have 3 cards, so we get poverty. Now, that is one thing that's very, very important to remember as you're getting poverty from running your cities is you don't want to run your city with 9 cards. Like if this player right here ran their city with 9 cards in their hand, guess what? They're going to take 9 poverty, and that would just be absolutely, totally dreadful in that aspect. So far, neither player has taken any kind of loans. Oh, let me go ahead and flip this here too. I don't know why I didn't flip another card over here. So it's been pretty steady right now. And you keep going. You keep going in this game until the city deck runs out. Now, one action that I did not do with any of the players, I did not do a draw action. Because one of the things you can do besides developing, running your city, and buying land is you can actually just draw 3 cards. You can draw 3 cards from here, or you can draw a mixture, a couple cards here, 1 card here, or maybe 2 cards here, and a few cards here. And I believe you can probably do the same thing when you actually buy the land. When you buy the land, when you draw the cards, I believe you can do the same thing, either drawing from here or there. I know that when I purchased these land that I did not end up going to here to draw. And then once you empty the deck, every other player gets 1 last turn. And then what you're going to do is you're going to tally up all your prestige points from your cards. You'll flip these cards over and you'll go through each one of these cards and tally up the prestige points that are available at the very bottom right. You'll tally up all of those prestige points that you have, add them to your overall tracker, and then you're going to go through this process where you're subtracting these poverty tokens. These poverty tokens will actually reduce the total number of prestige you have, and the person at the end of the game that has the most prestige wins the game. Beautiful looking game, beautiful board to it. I really like the way it looks. These quirky little kind of quirky little mechanics. As far as playing cards and having to discard cards in order to play a card of the same color. And then as far as gaining poverty whenever you're running your city. I think those are the hardest things to remember in this game. But other than that, I think it's a fantastic game. It is really nice. But there you go. London, 2nd edition. It's from Osprey Games. If you guys like this video, please like. And if you are new here, please consider subscribing or following. See you guys.